to Homeroom, a podcast from the Wisconsin Resource Center for Charter Schools. Here we bring you the latest state and national updates, important announcements, and candid conversations with education leaders from across Wisconsin. I'm Tim Scopper, Associate Director of the Wisconsin Resource Center for Charter Schools, and I'll be your guide for today's announcements. Plus, we'll be calling one lucky superintendent or education leader down to the principal's office for an inside look at what's happening in their districts and communities. Let's get started. Adrienne Woods, thank you so much for being part of the Homeroom podcast. I know at Works we have an opportunity to spend a decent amount of time with you annually, working with you as an authorizer in the state, one of the largest authorizers in the state. Would you take a moment and introduce yourself? Tell us about your role as an authorizer at UWM and how long you've been doing that.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Tim, first of all, for even asking me to do it. I do appreciate it. I guess to make it make sense, I'll give a little bit more on how I got here. I'm at UWM as the director of the Office of Charter Schools, and I've been in this role since 2014. I came July 1 of 2014. The office itself has been open since 1999. So we are like moving to our 27th year. Operations there. I've only been 4 directors. I'm the 4th. 3 before me, all who I have wonderful relationships with. But the office has steadily grown over the years, and now we're at the largest that we have been. My work as an authorizer didn't start here, though. So I worked in the local school district as an educator since, I'll be aging myself here, but since 1992 is when I started. And then really about 2006, 2007 is when I started working, not in a director role, but with charter schools and what this district called partnership schools. They were not employees of the district. And so that was my initial work. I was a school counselor working with charter schools and continued and then started becoming a program officer, working with a little bit with charter, not as much, but still in that office. And then eventually moved to becoming a regional, they were called regional supervisors then, where I was kind of over this region. And then they switched it to director. So I would say I was 4 years where I was the director over the charter school office within the local school district. And then I just moved to UWM.
Excellent. So you have a long history of authorizing or being in that role, and some of it's been with the public school district in Milwaukee. Some of that has been with, a good amount of it has been with UWM. Did you say you were a social worker?
No, I was a counselor. I started as a
counselor.
Teacher. Yeah, I was a teacher.
Teacher, and then you went into the counseling world.
Then I went to counseling, school counselor.
I love that you were a school counselor and had an opportunity to work at that level. What grade levels were you working with at that time?
Yeah, always high school. I was a high school English teacher, and then I was a high school counselor. Same school really for most of the time, and then went to one other high school, still within the district. So I actually was a school counselor longer than I was a teacher. I taught for about 5 years, and I probably was a school counselor maybe, 10 years or more. The director of the the department of school counselors within the high school, and loved it. I still do, but after a while you start to move and think maybe I want to do this and kind of elevate. Then I went to like different program manager for the schools I kind of talked about, and then even PBIS. I was a PBIS supervisor for a little bit.
Excellent. Yeah.
And then ended up coming back to be the director over the office.
That's excellent. So you really went from the classroom to kind of the broader school context, and then to the district level in multiple capacities, and then over to UWM.
Yep.
Excellent. What would have been, when you look at UW-Milwaukee as an authorizer, so they had the vision since the 90s to actually have an authorizing office within UW-Milwaukee. Can you tell me a little bit? Obviously you weren't there in 1999, but you were in the district. What was it, looking at the history of UWM, that caused them to get into authorizing in the first place?
Right. From what I know, and some are the stories you hear, and then some, just law. Initially, UWM, MATC, I know Parkside came in a little later too. They weren't initially a part of the charter, and it was really school districts, right? They were the ones who would charter schools. And then the law was changed and allowed for UWM, the city of Milwaukee, MATC, who's never authorized though, to become authorizers. From what I've told, it kind of came from on high. I'm not sure if it was the governor and then it moved down to maybe the Board of Regents, but they were told you were going to be an authorizer. And so Paul Harbrick, who still is very active when we need him to be, he's the one who actually started the office, and he was a faculty member at UW-Milwaukee, and also I think, maybe some administrative work he did, and it was his task to create this office. I think it used to be called the center for charter schools instead of an office. And he had to devise everything on how we would do this and how you would do that earlier on. And then Bob came and he was a former superintendent. He became the director that really put things in place, right? When you talk about the application process, and not that it wasn't there, but he really solidified things. And I think they both would agree that Paul got it started, but Bob really put some of those foundational pieces into place. A lot of us, you can imagine, everyone at the university wasn't happy. That's what I hear. And I understand it from working that the university was chartering.
Right.
Think about it. Milwaukee Public Schools, the largest school district in the state, and UWM being right here, training future teachers and even those coming back. And so it caused, from what I've heard, right, some tension on that competition that comes, and how do we continue to support the school district if we are starting these schools that are taking students from the district. So again, wasn't there, but I understand that because that still exists, and in some ways even within school districts that can exist, that there's that feeling that when you do a charter school, you're taking them from the district. So I believe because of that, I've heard the role of the office was just kind of keep your head down, do the work, but like we're not putting out any banners, right, saying, come, we do this. It's like you do the work well, but we are not advertising, we're not promoting in that sense that we may think of it now. And I honestly think that continued for a while, even though the work was being done, that wasn't something that we have these. And I remember even, and I won't get too far, but even when I came, I was surprised that some people still didn't know that we had charter schools. And so this was 2014. Really? I'm like, hey, you've been here a while. I just got here, but I knew that UWM had a charter school, so why don't you know? So, but I think that was it. Some people are not involved, but then some just, they didn't know. What do you mean we have charter schools? I mean, and trying to understand that connection.
Yeah.
So that's a little of the history. I hope I answered the question. Okay.
No, I think you did a great job, and I'm learning about the history. That's why I wanted to know, and I made sure that we didn't fully talk about it beforehand, because I think it's a fascinating thing, and I'm not surprised that a lot of people didn't know, partly because, as you and I both know, a lot of people just don't understand charter schools. And I work with people throughout the state of Wisconsin, and sometimes I'll be working with a school district, or I'll be working with an authorizer who, as we are having the discussion, they'll ask about private charter schools in Wisconsin. And I'll say, well, there are no private charter schools. They're all public. In fact, nationwide, they're public. And there will be a lot of confusion there because they're like, no, I know that there are private. And then we'll talk about what a voucher school is versus a charter school, and the confusion between those two of public dollars and where they're going. It really can be hard if you haven't spent the time that we've obviously spent working on that. You, in your former role with MPS, overseeing the charter schools in the MPS district, I completely understand why you would have been really in tune with how UWM is operating with charters because of your level of understanding as an authorizer. So you had mentioned that, before it was very kind of like quiet. We're not advertising. We're not talking about this. Politically, it really was not the safest thing to do. Things have changed a little bit. Talk to me about that balance, because I think it is still a delicate balance, knowing you are a person who supports all schools in Milwaukee, that you are a person who looks at the public sector and says, this is important and it needs to be high quality for all children, and I know that about you. How do you juggle the balance of, and I want to put this carefully and respectfully, how do you juggle the balance of the impact of being an independent authorizer while also caring and wanting to see all charter schools and all public schools in Milwaukee as successful and safe, wonderful places for all students? How do you juggle that balance, knowing that sometimes people do get upset?
Sure. I think for me, and I say this very honestly, it really always has to be about the students, the children, and their families.
Yes.
Right? When we get too deep into the politics and I have to choose a side, I remember when I took this job, someone said to me, I thought it was the craziest thing, so you're going to the other side. And she's someone who I knew well. And first I was trying to figure out what side. This is the work I've
What
been
side?
doing here.
Right.
So the charter side, I've been on the charter side. It's just been here with the district. But I think it's people not understanding that. So for me, it really is thinking about families do have a choice, right?
Right.
And if charters aren't meeting the need, I'm not saying in every case, right? But families don't have to go there. So something is going on that many of them are making the choice to say, I want to go here. I personally believe what was a benefit, I hope for me, I don't think it's like, why I was hired. I'm not saying that, but once I got to UWM, I think people can be fearful of like, is this going to be someone who's negative about the district? And I never have been, and I never will be. Right.
Right.
Everything I've learned about being an educator, I learned it from my years working within the school district. My daughter, who's now a junior in college, is a product of that school district, and they did a wonderful job in educating her. So I used to say my most prized possession is still in that district. So no, I'm not against
Right.
it. But there is this system that operates, and families have this choice, and someone has to do this work, because unless all of the students leave, you still have this office. So why not have, I always felt like someone like me, who I understand from working at the school district, but I don't go here saying negative things about MPS. You know what I mean? I'm
Right.
going to do what I can to work with them. But I also understand how it is to be an instrumentality charter school, how it is to be a non-instrumentality charter school, and now how it is to be an independent charter school. For me, I think it made less juggling because I could see it from their perspectives. I could see it from the school district perspective, why they think we want the kids. This is the work we do. And sometimes they think
Right.
on charter, like these people, some of them don't even have a degree in education. They're business people or community, so I understand their role. But then you see the heart of so many people who come because they really want students to have better options. And I always try to say more quality options because they exist in Milwaukee outside of the charters that we have. We're just trying to add to it. There need to be more. So I think there's a difference between saying there aren't any high quality charter schools in Milwaukee, so we have to have this. It was never that there weren't any, it was that there needed to be more. So what did we do to make more? The district wants to have more, but there's still work they have to do. I want more. There's still work I have to do here in order to get that. So that's kind of, I think, how I balance it, just trying to stay focused on students, families, and what we're doing right for them, because that's what this is really all about, right? Which benefits in our community, the country, because they leave, whether they stay here in Wisconsin or they go elsewhere. We want them to be citizens that can really add to it. And a part of that is what they gain during their years when they're in, their educational foundation.
That is such an amazing answer to my question. I honestly feel like you covered so many of my next sets of questions. But I agree with you. When I look, and I can say my experience was always as an instrumentality charter school. I helped start an instrumentality, and then I took over one when I was in Fond du Lac and joined their team as their principal. But I had been an administrator in a large traditional public high school, and I saw the need because I was entering into something that already existed. And so I hear you saying, like, this system already existed. You didn't invent a system. You weren't taking away from the district. You were understanding, and you came in as a person that could understand from both sides. And I think that is a huge strength, because what you're saying is you want it to be high quality if it's going to exist.
Exactly.
You want to give these options already exist, so why not come in as a person who has values and has beliefs around how students learn and wants to provide students and families with high quality choice. So I have a great deal of respect for that. I do want to ask you, we don't have to get into the weeds on this, but your portfolio is growing a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's growing partly out of that necessity. MPS recently decided that having non-instrumentality schools, because they had a handful of non-instrumentality schools, I believe it was around 5 or 6 schools, and those schools, and the district has decided to non-renew or renew for just a given year for some of them. And so I believe your portfolio is growing. I don't know to what degree you can talk about that or would like to talk about that, but you have some schools adding to your portfolio. Tell me about that as an opportunity for UW-Milwaukee as an authorizer.
Sure.
And for the community.
Oh, totally. I think I want to preface it by saying first, and I think this is really important. The role of the office before I came and since I've been there, it has never been to recruit. So I
Right.
never go out and say, "Come here, please. We want you."
Right.
We don't do RFPs for, and not that that's bad. I'm not saying that, but that is
Right.
not the position of the university or the office. So when schools or organizations, individuals come, then we're just going through the process like we always do, no matter who it is. There was always a belief that we couldn't grow beyond a certain number, like, it's only 12, like that was a magical number. And I remember I've had conversations with the former chancellor when I first came in. There wasn't a number, it wasn't
Right.
just, we don't want to just grow. And I like the way we've done this. It's never been like, oh, we're not going to take any. We've made a decision that we're only looking through the applications. And like I know, and I want to be careful because people misunderstand, there is a gamble to
Mm-hmm.
opening a charter school because you can read an application that just blows you away because it hits, it crosses every T, dots every I. You're like, this school is going to be magnificent. And it might not work. There are
Right.
other times that you can get one. It's a little shaky. You say yes. I mean, not horrible, but we're going to do this, and then you get it, and it becomes more than you ever expected it. So there is a bit of a gamble. But what
Mm-hmm.
we've tried to do is say when we go through this process, and we have a two-step process, so it's the prospectus and then the full application. And I do believe it's rigorous, and we've improved even upon it over the years, so that when we say yes, we really believe that this school has the ability to provide a high-quality education for the students within the area where they live. And we've set
Mm.
up our performance framework to make sure that if they don't, we have something so we're not just saying, oh, I think they're okay. They look,
Right.
schools are nice and parents can love them. I had that in the district even here, and you're saying they're not serving your child, but they like staff or they like people. And so they're like, but I like it here, or my child is safe here, which is so very important.
Mm.
But we have to also say that's important, right? Safety, but
Yes.
then they have to educate, right? There are a lot of places you can go. You know what I mean? You still have
I
to.
do.
That's been the role in trying to. And so now when you have, if the district or whoever makes a decision, different districts actually, and say they're not going to, or schools just have their own choice saying we want to come this way for more independence. And I hope we'll talk about that autonomy and accountability that really comes into play in charter school, or should. That's what we go off of. So it's not like, oh, MPS didn't want them, we're taking them. Oh,
Right.
so that's not it. It's always the same. We're going through our process. And if it is a quality application with a solid group of individuals on the board of directors, they have a leader, and we believe it's going to work, that's when we're saying yes. There are no other reasons. It's not like, oh, we're taking more now because the district. Now, might more come if the district makes that choice? Of course. And I
Sure.
think that happened this year, which isn't, with Carmen. So, I mean,
Right.
everyone knows now that they're with us, so I don't think we're talking secret anymore. But that was
Right.
one of those. They had already come for one anyway. But some of that probably was with some decisions that had been made earlier about the lease and, things of that matter. But again, we
Mm-hmm.
don't go after them. But we've also already had a Carmen school for over 5 years, a middle school. So it's
Right.
like the relationship already existed. This wasn't new. It was just now a stronger partnership with all of their schools.
Right. And so the Carmen board, for those people who are listening that don't know, that are in Milwaukee, and they had some schools in the Milwaukee Public School District, and then they were also authorized with one of their schools with UWM, and with Milwaukee making some changes to their and with their decisions, in terms of not choosing to either not renew or only renew for a short time their non-instrumentality schools. They came to you and applied for more schools to come in. And I'll just speak to your application process. It is the model that most other independent authorizers take from because it is so high quality. It's very involved. And so for those people listening that don't really understand independent charter schools, you don't just ask. And I do get that phone call a lot at works saying, like, well, how do I become an independent charter school? I'm like, well, it's a process because you have to show high quality even in your design before you even begin. And you have to show high quality if you already exist as a charter and you're looking to be authorized by UWM. And I know that as for a fact because I've looked over your application. I've helped others kind of develop their applications based off of yours. So it is very high quality, and it is a lot of accountability. And you hold your schools to a high level of accountability, and I know that. You have a team. It's not just you. Do you want to just tell me a little bit about your team that you have
Sure.
at UWM?
Sure, sure. We have, well, yeah, I give them their names. Why wouldn't I say their names? Diana Borders, who is an assistant director of like business services. So she
Sure.
really works with Epicenter, which is the web-based compliance center that we use. But anything related to compliance, and then also just around budgeting, she works with me for the around the audit, around the budgets with the schools. So that's really kind of her lane. And then we have Nicole Hoffman, who's a researcher, and she's our data coordinator, assessment coordinator. And she is the whiz at anything maps, anything if you want to know about the state report card, she's going to tell you about it. And she gives, trainings to our schools if they desire it on like state report card, on just map in general to help them. So, but we're small, or we have been, so it's just the three of us, and that's kind of how the work has been divvied up. That's Nicole also works with me around the performance framework for academics, where Diana works with me for the financial. And then also with Nicole a lot, we have what we call it's active ingredients, something she went through with NASCA. And so we have schools, they have to create local measures. So of course we have our measures in our performance framework that they have to that's the standard that we expect them to meet. But they also, and now it's a part that every school has to have. They can have a maximum of two. They have to have
Okay.
at least one. And Nicole works with them through that process to help them to develop that. We always wanted it. COVID during the pandemic made us have to choose real quick to come up
Yep.
with it. And then after that, we realized, though educators are brilliant, but they have so much on their plate to just say to them, come up with it. It's good to be able to work with them, and that's what Nicole does. But it's their goals, not hers.
Excellent.
She just works through the process, and then we have to kind of approve them, but we don't tell them what they have to be. We just say, yes, that's going to work, or let's work with this a little more. So
That's
great
excellent.
team. It's small,
Yeah.
just three of us. We're hoping to increase those numbers, one or two, hopefully soon. But it's been the three of us since I've been there, and I think always it hasn't been more than three in the office.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. To have three individuals that have as many schools as you have in your portfolio, how many schools do you have this year currently, and what are you looking at potentially going up to next year?
This year we have 15 schools. We actually have
Right.
19 campuses because some of the
Okay.
schools, it's one school, but they have several buildings with different
Right.
grade levels. So this year, 15 campuses, 19. Next year we'll jump up to 22 schools and put us at about, I think, 26 campuses.
That's not a
Yes,
small
I think that
increase.
it is not a small increase. It is not. And I think that's where people have been here. And again, that wasn't intentional, that it's like, oh, let's get it. But the schools came and, we go through the process, and that's where we are. Yeah. So, and I'm excited about it though. But that's growth
Good.
for us. We've never been over, I think once we may have gotten to 15 and then, school leaves. I don't even think we did. I would have to go back and look. But definitely 15 roughly has been the highest.
Okay, so this is a pretty big increase, and I think it's a very exciting increase for you
It is.
as a group, and I say that because I have watched as your capacity has existed for your schools that you have, and I have no doubt it will continue to increase with your increase of schools. Again, you end up getting brought up. You were brought up today by by a national charter school organization as the poster child for high quality management of your schools. And I'm not making that up. That because we had a podcast today, I had a whole different conversation that had nothing to do with you, and you got brought up by somebody in New York as the poster child.
Wow.
So,
We appreciate it.
and well, it's true, and I don't think that comes with because if this is a national organization that actually deals with a lot of accountability measures, and they know you by name, and they're not, it's not even you didn't even know the person, but they knew of you. I just think that that's a pretty cool thing, and I think that also speaks to something that you've brought to Milwaukee and you've brought to Wisconsin is these high quality practices for accountability, but for autonomy. You give your schools a lot of autonomy, but it's with an understanding of, listen, we give you the autonomy as an independent charter school, but you have to show that you are accountable to us in these different areas, and we're going to keep up on that. And if you're not, there's going to be corrective action.
Yes, yes. That's the
So,
balance.
yeah.
You asked earlier about what the balance, I mean, not the balance as far as the politics, but the balance I believe in charter is that autonomy and accountability. I remember, and this was when I was still in the district, and I can't remember. That's when they had a state like kind of what Wiska is doing now, but it was another name. And she was really a firecracker, but she was the director. And we had two before me, one who was very pro charter because she had been a charter principal, and she was good. She was very pro charter, like she was going to be there to back them up, and this was in the district. The next one who came, who was before me, had not had that work with charters, and so was a little less. Yeah, I mean, she worked with them. She wasn't anti, but it just was different. If you know what I mean. So that's what I cannot remember her name, but she said to me when I got the position within the district, "Which one are you going to be?" And I'll never forget this because it was true, and it just came. It was like neither, and not neither just because I'm always going to be who I am,
Right.
but I was like, you have to do both. It is a balancing act. You can't come in. I've never said that like charter schools are the remedy to all that ails K-12 education. It's an option, and it works well, and sometimes it doesn't. But we see
Right.
that in public education as well. So it's that to me it was that balance of you have to give them the autonomy, and then if they don't, it's your job to come back and say no. This is what you signed up. And I think that's what people don't understand. Like there is a contract. This isn't just oh, you do what you want to do and I may come in. And I'm not saying that we're perfect. We're learning in our office as well.
Sure.
Understand that this contract is the relationship. And so we've outlined it here what we expect. You've outlined what you're going to do. If I don't do my part, there's a problem. If you don't do yours, there's
Right.
a problem. And so, like, we have our annual report. That is our way of saying to the community at large, these are the results of our schools. This is what they're doing. This is what we're doing with the monies that come into this office. And that I am extremely proud of. Diana and Nicole do an absolutely marvelous job with it. But we've had an annual report now for 20 years at least. So longer before the authorizer report became a thing. With the state, we've been doing this and we've just gotten better with it. But to me, that's important because that's for anyone who wants to read it to know, okay, how are these schools doing? And what are they even expecting them to do? And if you have questions, call me and I'll let you know exactly how. Could we change some? Sure. We continue to grow as well, but we have some things in place.
I love the accountability that you place on yourselves in that report as well. Our whole team was up in Tomahawk at our CISA 9 office for a staff meeting, and in our mailboxes comes the annual report that you send to us. Thank you. And it's not only the most beautiful report just in terms of its look, because it really is colorful and it's vibrant and it shows the life of serving children in Milwaukee.
Thank you. That's what we want.
But it also shows that level of accountability because you break down all of your numbers. You show us where all of your money that comes into your office, because there is a fee for independent charter schools so that you can exist to serve them.
Yes.
And you have regularly given back to the charter schools that which you do not use. And I do not see that very frequently. So I'm just impressed and proud of you as an organization for saying we manage our funds so well that sometimes we have left over and then we give it back to the schools.
I love it. That wasn't my idea. When I first came, I said, what? Why did we do that? But it's a beautiful thing. I love it now. But when you first come, why are we doing that?
Why do we give money
back? It was
back?
put in place before I came, and it's in the contract, actually, yes. And it works beautifully. It's one of the best things I'm glad they did. I don't even think about changing it.
Well, and it is a literal proof of putting your money where your mouth is when you say we're for the children of our district. And so we use our funds and we show how we use our funds well, and then we give back that money to the children of our district to show that we really do care. And you don't actually even charge what is probably average in the country or even average in the state, to the extent that I looked at that and we had a conversation as a team where I said, but they're not actually bringing in the dollars they could be bringing in from those schools, because usually it's about a 3 to 5% fee. And depending on the need and depending on the amount of service and the number of, you don't often bring that in. So and that's very public, like those numbers and those percentages are very clear in your report. So well done to you and your team on that report. I love seeing it and looking through it every year. I actually have it because I bring it home every year. It's in my backpack, and I show it to others, and I've shown it to other independent
Thank you.
authorizers like UW Parkside. I know that OAO always has access to that, and I'm looking forward to seeing their annual reports in the future. Like, it's just wonderful. I will be honest, I did not, when I first started at the Wisconsin Resource Center for Charter Schools, I didn't understand why a school would choose to be an independent charter school because of the level of, district overhead that I always experienced. And yet, the longer I've been with Works and the more I've worked with authorizers and with schools and with governance boards and teachers and principals, the more I really do understand the benefits of being an independent charter school, how absolutely beautiful it can be when you have really good authorizing, really good governance, really great leadership, and really great teachers. There are benefits to being a district instrumentality or non-instrumentality. There are benefits to being an independent charter school. There are drawbacks to both, but it really does create an opportunity for schools and for leaders and for communities to have options educationally that are different. Yep. And that's just it. It's not we're not calling it better, we're calling it different, and it might be better for this student or this group of students or this community, but ultimately it is an option that exists throughout Milwaukee, and it's about to get increased to even more options that exist in Milwaukee.
Totally. I just wanted to hit, because I think that's so important. You said, like, it's so different, be it an instrumentality or non-instrumentality. I've known some that their desire was to be a non-instrumentality because they wanted to be supportive of the district. And I totally respect that. There are others who, if they didn't have that relationship already and they knew they wanted a different level of independence, that sometimes can be a little harder when you're part of the school district, because the truth is the district is the element. And so you have your board, but it's still under Milwaukee, their board of directors, so it can make it harder. And I've even had some that I've had conversations, just people I've known, who it was better to say, yeah, I think you should stay with the district, because there were things that you can come to, and that's not a bad thing, but there were things that the schools had come to expect because they received those from the district, that we're not going to do that here. So we don't have an IT department for you here,
Yeah.
I mean, you say just UWM, yeah, but not for the Office of Charter Schools, right? We don't have some of the things. There's not a literacy coach and a math coach that you might get through the district. I don't have that in my office. I have the 3 people. So for some, that was better for them to stay with the district. For others, it was, I want to use the right word, but they felt it was, I would say debilitating, but they couldn't do what they needed to do being a part of the district because they wanted to operate and they didn't need some of the things that the district was saying, you have to do this. And they're saying, why? We have our own, why do I have to do this? And that can be the rub. When you come here, I say, you do. I mean, we have oversight, but it is less. And I do want to say with that, the admin fee. So in the state of Wisconsin, it was maxed. I don't think it's changed. It's 3%. But there are many places that they are at that 3%. And I love the fact that we are under 1.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we may start right at 1.1, but because we give it back, we're going to go under. I say that, and I am proud of that, because it's like we can operate the way we are. And we're not just trying to take the money from the schools. We wanted to go back so they can serve the students. We take what we need in order to run the office efficiently. And we've been able to do that well.
Excellent. Well, I know that your schools appreciate that, and I know that you stick to your agreements well, and you care about your leaders and your executive directors and your principals and your families. I know, because you have conversations with them when they need you. And so it's a unique thing for me to continue to learn more about your office.
Thank you.
And continue to learn more about our independent charter schools in the state, because I am every week learning more as I continue to work with them and we continue to support them. I do want to tell our listeners that there's a few different ways that you can learn more about the individual schools. At Works, our organization has what we call the yearbook. So you can just Google Works, WRCCS yearbook, and it's going to pop up and it's going to populate, and you can differentiate by those schools that are authorized by your office, Adrienne, so they can pull that out. If people are interested or curious or want to reach out, where can they go to find your office online?
So online, and I'm like, it's right here, but you can't have it. So if you type it in, Office of Charter Schools at UWM, or if you just go to uwm.edu, once you get on there and you type in Office of Charter Schools, it'll take it. I think I should know this, but we're like, it's just ocs.edu, I believe, so
Sure.
www dot, but I want to make sure I'm saying that. The easiest way, though, is simply go to UW-Milwaukee, type in the search Office of Charter
Yeah.
Schools. It'll take you right there. It has everything about our process, our schools, everything that we do. So anything you want to know about the office is there. The annual report is there. You can always get a copy there. So if people say, where did I get that nice, colorful copy that Tim just spoke of? Well, you can go on there and get the electronic copy so you can
Sure.
see it. It's always going to be there. Always, I tell people all the time, just my email is woodsal@uwm.edu. Feel free to shoot me an email. I normally respond right back. And sometimes people just have questions, and I've gotten accustomed to answering them as much as possible about our process, and sometimes in general about charters. So again, yes, the website is the first way to go, and then feel free to email me as well.
Sounds good. And I know that people email us a lot at support@works.org to ask those questions, and sometimes we direct them to you, and sometimes we are able to help answer those questions for them and give them a heads up and field a lot of phone
Send them your
calls
way,
from.
too.
Yeah,
More and more now,
anytime.
like, yeah, you need to call Tim on this.
Yeah. we're
Yeah,
always
thank you.
we're always happy to answer. And very frequently now I get to hand that off to Dan, and just as Sarah would hand that off to me, and we work together as a team, and we work together with you as a team
Yeah, which I
in your office, and we're looking forward to having you present at the Wisconsin Charter Schools Summit in Oshkosh in June, on June 15th and 16th, and they can find out more information about that on our website at works.org. And I would also just mention, you're not the only UW that authorizes, but you are actually one of two, and then there's also the Office of Educational Opportunity, which is housed at the UW in Madison.
Yep.
And so it's you and UW Parkside,
Yep.
but that all UWs in Wisconsin can authorize. They are authorizers, they're just maybe not active. And you guys have been in office since 99, and Parkside has been active since the early 2000s, maybe late 90s, and so have just started to add to their portfolio recently. And then there's OEO, which is our statewide authorizer. So if people are listening to this and they're in other parts of the state that are near a UW, they can inquire about that to their UW. There's nothing technically stopping them outside of a chancellor saying we are going to actively authorize.
Yeah, totally, yeah. I was going to say this, I often say it, that our decision has been not to move far outside, but we all are statewide authorizers in the sense
That's true.
we can, and so I've corrected a few people, like OEO isn't the only statewide, it's just the one
Correct.
that has branched out further. And I love that because at this point, that's not a desire. We have a school in
Right.
Waukesha, and we've had conversations on others, so we're not limited. But I just like one.
No, that's an excellent point
because
to
we're
make.
not necessarily wanting to go way out, but we do have that ability, as the other ones do as well. So, yeah.
Very true, and I appreciate you bringing that up because it is totally true. I refer to OEO as the statewide authorizer, but you're right. All of you have the legal capacity and authority to do that, and I know you choose to stay a little bit more geographically local at this time, anyway. So, excellent.
Yep.
Adrienne, anything else you wanted to share with us before we wrap up today?
No, I appreciate the time. I think it's wonderful. And I mean this honestly, to have the opportunity to talk about charter schools. I think for a long time, like we were saying earlier, where people don't understand who they are, and those conversations I've had over and over about vouchers and that trying to explain the difference between. And I think some of it is just a lack of education, even as we talk about this educational sector, but that people don't understand, and they still may not agree. So it's not even about saying if you decide you like them or you don't, but understanding what they are, what they do in the role. So I think it's just important that you have this podcast and that we could even have this conversation, which is just from my perspective, but I think it's important. And so I totally support traditional public schools. I support charter schools that are public schools.
Right.
For families that decide voucher, if that's for their families, then that is a
Right.
choice that the law allows. And like anything else, if the law changes, then that we would deal with that then. But right now, that's an option. And so that's the way I see it. But all of our jobs need to be, what are we doing to ensure that students can really gain a quality education wherever they go. And that's hard
I think
work.
It is. It is hard work, and it takes people who are willing to put in that effort and time and energy and bring things to a level of high quality for the sake of our students and our community. I think that's very well said, Adrienne, and I appreciate your time today. Thank you for talking to us on the Homeroom podcast. I know a lot of people around the state will learn a lot about independent charter schools, specifically with UW-Milwaukee, from this discussion. So thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.